Hello and welcome to the Lit Podcast Tuesday Night Tea live with your host, Juana. I am so excited to be back, y'all. I missed a couple weeks here. I'm going to get a few moments for some people to come on. Facebook and StreamYard was acting a little weird tonight, so I was a little bit late, so it took me an extra 2 minutes to get it going. But let's see, comments. There we go. All right. So I'm going to wait a few moments for some people to get in. But while I'm waiting to say hey to some folks, I have been busy. So I was implementing some self-care and some boundaries, right? So we're going to be talking about boundaries tonight. There's just been a lot going on in my life. And yeah, so we'll hopefully find out some news that I can share soon with everyone. But I'm going to wait maybe another minute or two. But I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be here live again. I know we missed that couple of weeks, but it was well needed, well deserved, I guess. And I took full advantage of it. And so, of course, y'all, my mama's always the first one on. So, hey, mama, good to see you out there. I can't see you, but good to see you. But yeah, we've been going through just a lot over here at the Lyles house. Well, I have been. I don't know necessarily that Damon is, but because we are one, that means that we both have. So tonight we have lined up talking about boundaries part 2. In the last episode, that was about 3 weeks ago, I did talk about boundaries, the first part, where we talked about the different types of boundaries. And so for this episode, we're going to go in a little bit more about what are healthy boundaries versus unhealthy boundaries and how you can set them. Okay. Somebody else has come on. So, hey, a couple of people, they're coming in now. Hello to you all. And you shouldn't have an issue, but as my housekeeping rules, I am live streaming from StreamYard. So if you would like me to see who you are, you have to give StreamYard access to your name so that I can interact with you, because I love interaction. So it's 8:05, well, 8:06 now. So I'm going to jump right in and get started. I've been doing good, y'all, taking my notes so I can stay on target so we're not here all night. But so let me get started. Okay. And I get some of this information that I like to share because I'll find it and I like to share it. And so I get it from various places that I find as good resources. So some of this information that I'm getting tonight, this is not paid advertisement. They're not paying me anything like that, but I do Very Well Mind. So they do share. So some of this information does come from there because I don't want to get charged for no plagiarism. Okay. But so as we learned already in part 1 of boundaries can be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, right? So we learned all of those, even sexual. I remember sexual was one of the ones that we talked about as well. So just to recap, physical boundaries involve what you're comfortable with regarding your personal space, your touch, your privacy, and like I said, the sexual contact. Okay. Emotional boundaries, they basically encompass the line between your feelings and the feelings of others. Okay. So this looks like taking responsibility for your own feelings and recognizing that you can't control what others feel, right? You also, with that in mind, you can't control what other people do. And I just want to add real quick to that point of we are responsible to people, not for people. And I know I've said this many, many times on here. And so what does that look like? I am responsible for me. That's all I can control. Anything that I do, act, how I feel, what I think, that's it. I am not responsible for anybody else's. Okay. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But emotional boundaries also involve being aware of what you do or do not feel comfortable sharing with other people and honoring those limits. Okay. So sometimes people can overshare and hey, Michelle, I like that. Hey, Dr. Lyles. I like that. But yeah, so it also involves about, like people can tell you what they want to tell you, but it doesn't mean that you have to answer or respond or receive it, So, so like I said, we'll get into some of that. And so, what does healthy boundaries look like? What does that look like? Um, so here's an image that I can share with you. So I know that sometimes, before in the last episode, I talked about boundaries as like being on the road. But let's picture a fenced in yard, right? So I put a fence on my property, right? So we have a fence going around from halfway of our house to like all our backyard, right? So my fence is there. That means I control whatever happens in my fence, right? Within my property. Now, my neighbor, I can't go over there. Well, I can, but I should not because I have healthy boundaries. I don't go over there telling him what he can do and what he can't do in his yard, right? Unless it's impacting my yard. So I did have previous neighbors that had dogs that would try to knock down my fence because it's my fence in my yard. However, it's on the boundary of their yard as well. So um, they didn't put it up. It's my fence. So when they knock it down, when they do stuff to it, I'm responsible for it. But I can go over there and tell them, hey, your dogs are messing with my fence, right? And I can ask them to help fix it or pay for repairs. But the main thing here that I want you to know is that what happens in my yard is my responsibility, is my business. Okay. I don't go to anybody else's yard trying to tell them what they need to do. All right. So just kind of picture that as your boundaries. It's your fence line around your property. You are your property. Okay. So just keeping that in mind. So healthy boundaries look like this: valuing your personal boundaries and not compromising them for someone else. Okay. So I'm not going to go down, tear my fence down, or, remove boards because my neighbor says that his dogs want to look into my yard. I'm not going to do that. So I don't compromise my personal values, my personal boundaries for them. Okay. Healthy boundaries look like saying no. Remember that no is a complete sentence. So saying no and also accepting when other people say no. So just because somebody says no to you, you know, that's their boundary. They said no. So don't have a hissy fit on them, okay? Healthy boundaries, able to say no and accept when others say no. Knowing who you are and what you want and communicating that to others and in a clear way, because sometimes we can communicate things but it's not necessarily clear, so we need to make sure they completely understand and what we're saying is clear. And it's you got to know who you are and what you want. So you know just being aware of your own values and beliefs. Okay. Engaging in appropriate sharing. So that's what I was talking about, not oversharing information or like sometimes something could be as simple as this. Like you could see it as a kind gesture, like going out and here, I have this, I'll pay, I'll do this, I'll do all this stuff, for your friends. Um, it could be inappropriate at times. So just make sure it's appropriate sharing and that you're not overstepping your boundaries with them. So like, I got all this stuff. I'll give you all my hand-me-downs. They might not want your hand-me-downs. Okay. It could be about communication as well. Just sharing, oh, you know um, what me and my husband were doing last night. That is not anybody's business. Okay. So just make sure you're sharing appropriately. That's a healthy boundary, sharing appropriately. Not letting others define you or your sense of self-worth. Okay. Just because somebody feels some kind of way, just because they think some kind of way, that's on them. They can say what they want, but they don't define who you are. They don't define your self-worth. Your self-worth was decided a long time ago because you are a person on this earth. You know, your creator made you and placed you here. So you are worth something then. It doesn't matter what someone else's opinion about you is. All right. Knowing that your needs and feelings are just as important as the needs and feelings of others. So that looks like making sure you communicate your feelings and your needs, not minimizing your stuff, saying, like, well, I guess I'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. If I'm hungry, I'm just saying, I'm hungry. So it's important if I want to go to eat at if I want to eat at McDonald's, I need to share that I want to eat at McDonald's. I don't need to, I mean, that's not a really good place to eat. But I'm just saying, if that's where I want to go and that's my need, or what I want, then I need to be able to share that and know that I have a voice and that what I'm saying is just as important as the other person. Because maybe I can't afford to go to Longhorn tonight, right? And so I need to be able to voice that. Like, I'm not able to pay for that, right? Like right now, that's out of my budget. Okay. So know your needs and your feelings are just as important as the other people around you. Okay. Knowing that you have the right to your emotions and your feelings. So that looks like I have a right to feel how I feel. Somebody can't tell me like, oh, well, I mean, again, people can tell you, but I don't have to receive it. That, let's see, let's say I lost my job, right? Well, you should be over that. You shouldn't be feeling bad about losing your job. Um, Well, maybe you're not feeling that way, but I have a right to feel however I want to feel. I'm not impacting you in any negative way. It's not harming you in any way. So I can feel what I feel. Okay. So, and even sometimes I want you to think about this with our children. We tell our children, like, don't feel like that. Like, stop crying, get yourself together, things like that. Well, they need to be able to accept their emotions. They have a right to have their emotions. Now, if they're acting out, that's a whole different thing, because you don't have to respond in a negative or violent or aggressive way. But you should be allowed to have your feelings and your emotions. They're yours. That's all you have control over, is your stuff. So you have a right, okay, to your emotions and feelings. Feeling free to disclose and share information where appropriate. Kind of like, well, I think I had already said that. So remember, I was getting some of this stuff from multiple sources. So just make sure that you can feel free. So that's the difference. The other one was knowing when it's appropriate to share, but feeling free to share. Because if it's an appropriate situation and you don't feel like you could talk to somebody or tell them, then that might be a sign that could be a red flag if you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel like you can be yourself, right? Because that kind of lends into being able to share your emotions and feelings. So the key word here is always appropriate, when it's appropriate or where it's appropriate. It might not be appropriate to talk about something in some personal things in a professional setting, right? So the last one that I have is respecting others, their values, their beliefs, and their opinions, while knowing that you don't have to compromise your own values, beliefs, and opinions. And so that's very similar to what I was saying about, being able to share your communication, your feelings, all of that. So these are your values, your beliefs, your thoughts, your opinions. You can share them in appropriate settings, right? And you don't have to compromise them at all for anyone else because you have a right to them, okay? So I want you to keep in mind that healthy boundaries are all about you. They're all about you and the other person in the relationships wants, needs, and limits being honored and respected, okay? So there should be a mutual respect here. I want you to also remember that healthy boundaries take effort and intentionality, right? That's my word, intentional. So they take effort, it takes work. You can't just expect it to, happen overnight, okay? Healthy boundaries can also help prevent relationship abuse in the future. And abuse can come from not just intimate relationships, but from parents to children or from child to parent, right? Especially as our children age and they become adults. So there could still be abuse happening both ways there, okay? Or even just in friendships, because people can become manipulative and things like that. And so this is why it's important to have healthy boundaries that are clear, right? That are clear to others so that it can help prevent any type of abuse in relationships. Now, I'm not saying that it guarantees, okay? It does not guarantee that you prevent abuse, but it can help prevent it because it's clear. It's what you're not, what you're saying, this is what I'm standing for, okay? And it also is helpful to understand the difference between what is unacceptable and what is acceptable behavior in different types of relationships, okay? So remember to have clear, healthy boundaries. Those are some of the things to have healthy boundaries. And just in opposite, unhealthy boundaries are when you disrespect those values, beliefs, and opinions of others when you don't agree with them, okay? It's also not saying no or accepting when other people tell you no. And I like that Michelle put in the comments, no. Hi, Joanna. I love you too. Um, y'all, we got to get Joanna on here soon. We got a lot to catch up with. But yeah, no. And she put those exclamation marks because it's, you know, you'll start to take on things that you shouldn't have to take on. You'll feel overwhelmed, overburdened and things like that, and it'll start to lead to resentment when you're not able to say no. And you get, it could create depression and anxiety as well because you're overwhelming yourself. Some other unhealthy boundaries are feeling like you are responsible for other people's feelings and or happiness. I don't even know how else to say that, but like I said, you are not responsible for anyone else. You are responsible to them, not for them, okay? They feel how they feel. If they happy, they happy. If they ain't, they ain't. It ain't got nothing to do with you. Now, you might do some things that maybe interrupt their happiness or maybe aid into some negative feelings that they may develop, but you're not responsible for their feelings or their happiness. Nobody is holding a gun to you talking about be mad, or be happy, like nobody's doing that. So no one is responsible for anyone else's feelings or happiness, okay? And the last one is just like before, um, when you are easily compromised in your personal values, beliefs, and opinions, and you do things just to satisfy other people, those are unhealthy. Those are signs that you have unhealthy boundaries. Okay. And then some other things, like I just want to add, you're not responsible for fixing or saving anybody. Okay. You can't do that. And when we move forward and we talk about codependent relationships, that's one of the things that we kind of take on in those types of relationships. We think that, people are not going to be okay if we're not there, if we don't help them. Okay. And then above all, I want you to remember to communicate clearly your needs and wants. Okay. And with that, also don't be coercive or manipulative to get other people to say or do something that they don't want to do or say, right? Like, kind of like a peer pressure thing. And also remember, don't overshare personal information. Okay. And so let's go on. I'm trying to hurry up and get off here before like 8:30, 8:45. Okay. So how to set boundaries. So when we think about setting healthy boundaries, the main thing is to do some self-reflection. I like, you know, sometimes you might need to go to a coach or a therapist, right? To get to kind of help you reflect on these things. I worked with so many people that are like, I didn't even know that I had unhealthy boundaries. I didn't even know, because they just enter into these relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship or a friendly relationship, right? They enter into it because they've been this way their whole life. So they never had any real boundaries. A lot of times when people have like childhood trauma, there's boundary issues there. So they grow up not really knowing what a healthy boundary looks like. So the first step is to learn more about yourself. And so that's why I'm saying, like, if you go to a coach or a therapist, someone in the mental health field, they can help you to learn more about yourself and uncover these things. You also need to give yourself time and space to do so, whatever that looks like. Take time for you. We should have some personal care time each day, anyhow, to where you can just kind of sit and have a moment. So, watch out for those limiting beliefs, those things, those that inner critic of self-judgment, and know that this will be a process. Okay, it's not going to happen overnight. I'm 46 years old. So if I want to start having healthy boundaries right now, and I've never had them, it took me 46 years to have unhealthy boundaries. So it's not going to take me 46 minutes to get healthy boundaries. Okay. So just know that it's a process. It takes time. It's a journey. Okay. And remember, you're still in that environment with those people. So they may not be so accepting or so easily receptive of your new boundaries. Okay. So just remember that it's a process. Okay. A great start can be journaling. That's something really good. You could start by reading self-help books also, and just being aware of your internal core beliefs, your values, your identity, who you are. Figure that out. So all that self-reflection and with the journaling will really help, because you can see it in writing. Okay. um let's see, what else do I have on here? um oh yeah, so mindfulness. I love mindfulness because it's a good tool that helps you to become more aware of of how you actually feel. So like, just being in the moment, taking things moment from one moment to another moment, not necessarily just being overwhelmed with the day, but just stopping and being mindful and knowing, like, as I'm sitting here, I think about like, oh, my posture is not great. So my back hurts a little bit. I can feel that, you know. So, just really being one with your feelings and your thoughts. Don't go like way left on me and start, criticizing yourself and having judgment, but just, being in the moment and knowing and being in touch with yourself. Okay. Some other things I want to tell you about how to set healthy boundaries is goal setting. So after you start doing your journaling and reflecting on yourself, you can do a goal setting. Ask yourself, what's the goal in setting a boundary, or what's needed for the boundary, to set the boundary. So if you recognize like somebody's touching you too much, or people are excessively touching you, then you can set a boundary about that. So if you say to yourself, I don't want people to just touch me without permission, right? Um, so then that's a goal that you can set. That's a boundary that you can set, okay? Because you know that you will feel better if people aren't touching you excessively or without your permission, right? And just remember to start small. And like I said, it's a journey, it's a destination, right? It's a process. So setting boundaries, they might be uncomfortable, but if you start small and just focus on one thing at a time, you won't get overwhelmed, okay? So like I said, just start out with that. I don't want people to touch me when without my permission. So like I'm not a hugger, so I don't want you hugging me. I need to initiate that hug kind of thing. So just know that, okay? Be clear, like we were talking about the healthy boundaries, be clear, focus on what you want as clearly as possible. Like break it down to the smallest little bit that you can to make it a good communication to other people, okay? And then you practice it. Practice, 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 practice. Y'all heard this, practice makes perfect, right? Um but I'm going to say practice makes progress. Okay. So if you're thinking about setting a boundary and it makes you nervous, write out what you want to say before you implement it or start telling people about it. Practice saying it to yourself in the mirror, you know, and remember, it's not a, you don't do this, it's I use I statements. Okay. Um, And then the last thing I want to tell you about healthy boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, is to keep it simple. This is a time when less is more, okay? Just keep it simple. Rather than overloading someone with too many details, just pick the main thing, whatever is bothering you or whatever it is that you want to focus on. I prefer not to hug. It is just that simple. I prefer not to hug. And people will say, oh, okay, my bad, sorry. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to say, well, when I was little, I was touched inappropriately, and then I didn't know, and I had all these sexual encounters, and now that's too much, and you're oversharing. Just, they don't have to know why. I prefer not to hug. I prefer not to eat at Longhorn. If you don't want to tell them that your budget is off, I prefer not to. And that's okay. If they can't accept that, then you might need to find some new people to be around. Okay. But when people respect your boundaries, your values, your beliefs, your opinions, and you do the same, then that's a healthy relationship. That's what a healthy relationship looks like. Okay. Um, and just another little added tidbit, the benefits of setting boundaries helps you to avoid burnout, because sometimes just doing too much for too many people, too many things, too many groups, too many, I'm in this thing, I'm in that thing, and I'm always just saying, yes, okay, I'll do it, I'm volunteering. It's too much and you can end up in burnout, okay? So setting boundaries can help prevent burnout. It can help you have less resentment. Giving and helping others is a strength. It's great. It's a kind thing to do. But when it turns into doing too much for others, you might start to feel resentful towards them. So just make sure that, you are having your healthy boundaries so that you don't have resentment, especially towards, like family and close friends and things like that, or intimate relationships. So setting boundaries around what you are able to do can reduce or eliminate your resentment. Okay. And it provides more balance. More importantly, it provides more balance. So sometimes boundaries that we need to set are with ourselves. Imagine that, right? It's a boundary I need to set with myself. So, for example, while it can feel like a nice escape to binge watch a favorite show, because I do that, staying up too late and on like a work night, like I know I have a session at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'm staying up till like 2 o'clock in the morning watching this new show that I was watching, y'all, The Staircase. Lord, it got me. But I'm up watching this all night, and then I know I gotta get up in the morning and do my session. It can lead to exhaustion, right? So not setting my own boundaries with myself, you know, um, can make me more tired. So I need to have balance. So I could say, you know, I'll watch 2 episodes, but we know how that goes, right? I'll watch 2 episodes and then make sure I go to bed, right? Have me a nighttime routine. But setting a boundary with yourself to go to bed earlier might provide you with more balance. And so that's it, y'all. That's the tea for tonight. So, Michelle, what are you talking about? Why? Because I didn't, I was trying to stay focused on my tips there. So, what are you talking about? Why? Oh yes, my mom, y'all, she's on YouTube, but she said sometime you have to do it to keep the peace. But are you like what do you mean, Mama? Like when you have to do it to keep the peace, like um oh, Michelle saying the why was what you didn't want to eat. So, yeah, but I mean sometimes it is like about, you know, like I said, maybe I don't have the funds to go out and eat there, you know. Um but yes, I like that you're adding that, Michelle, that boundaries equal peace. It does. I love that because boundaries do equal peace. Peace of mind, peace of physical sense, piece of, with emotional ways. Yeah, it does equal peace because when you have the boundaries, and you know what you're in control of, what's you're in control of your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, and you're not allowing others to control that. It's, that self-control, you have that self-control, then you do have peace. It is so, that is so true. I love that. So yes, boundaries do equal peace. See, this is why we have discussion, because y'all have other stuff to add in here too. So yeah, I love that. But um I it's 8:35. So I am going to implement boundaries with time, and we're gonna get off of this thing. And I am actually gonna go and eat my leftover from this new Jamaican place in Columbus that my husband got me for lunch. So we're gonna go eat our leftovers because they gave us so much food. It was really good. Um, if you're out in Columbus, it is called Taste of Jamaica. Again, not a paid ad advertisement, not at all, but it was pretty good. So yes, so boundaries with time. So you guys have a great night. Um, like we always say, I am here. It is now, and y'all, I am on this side of the dirt because I am alive. So I love you all. Have a great night.